One arrogant remark in a cafe was all it took for a waitress to teach a CEO the lesson of a lifetime. The golden cafe light spilled across the old tiled floor, drawing jagged streaks like scars on the ground. The scent of roasted coffee rose sharply, mingling with the clink of spoons against porcelain, an everyday symphony of warmth. But that atmosphere shattered the moment the glass door swung open with a sharp clack. A man walked in, a tailored gray suit, polished leather shoes, eyes cold sharp as blades. He didn't glance at anyone, only scanned the room as if everything here existed merely as backdrop for his arrival. Conversations faltered. Laughter dimmed. A heavy silence fell. He sat at a table near the counter. Fingers drummed against the wood tap, 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 commanding without words. The waitress, her hair neatly tied back, face still touched with fatigue, approached with a polite smile and a quiet voice. "Good evening, sir. What would you like?" His gaze flicked down, disdainful. "Coffee. Black? Make it quick." She nodded and stepped away. But only minutes later, a sharp voice split the air. "You call this coffee?" He shoved the cup aside, liquid sloshing over the rim, splattering across the floor and onto another guest's shoes. The cafe froze. Forks stopped midair. Someone coughed. Another lowered their eyes to a phone, desperate not to be noticed. The waitress stood still, hands trembling around a dishcloth, eyes glassy, but her voice stayed soft. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll make it again." But he wasn't finished. His voice cut through the room, heavy and cruel. "Do you know who I am? I'm a CEO, and this is how you serve me, pathetic." He shot up, chairs clattering. The strike of his leather shoes echoed against the floor, sharp and merciless. He stepped closer, bending down, his breath thick with last night's whiskey. His lips curled, each word falling like a lash. "You're nothing but a waitress. Don't ever think you're worth more than that." The air turned dense, suffocating. She bit her lip, eyes shimmering, but no tears fell. The cafe light seemed to dim, leaving only shadow and silence. Customers glanced at one another. A few shook their heads. Most looked away. No one stepped forward. His laugh sliced the quiet, cold, arrogant. But then, in her eyes, something flickered. Not tears, not fear. A spark, small but unyielding. The narrator's voice rumbled, steady, prophetic. He thought he held all the power. He believed money and status would make the world bow. But in just minutes, this very man would be humbled by a waitress, and it would be a lesson he would never forget. The screen fades to black. Only the sound of a pounding heartbeat remains. A question lingers in the air. What will this young waitress do to bring a CEO to his knees? Morning in the city opened like a familiar symphony, the blare of car horns outside, the steady clack of shoes on the sidewalk, the warm aroma of fresh bread mingling with the soft smoke of steaming coffee. On a quiet corner, a small cafe sat with its faded paint front, but inside it glowed with warmth. Soft golden lights spilled over wooden tables, slowing down time itself. At the bar, the espresso machine hissed, each burst of steam like the heartbeat of a new day. Inside the cafe drew all kinds of people. A few students tapping away on laptops, a couple whispering over a shared pastry, office workers catching up on the morning paper. The air felt peaceful, comforting. The fragrance of roasted beans hung thick, laced with cinnamon and vanilla, drifting from the pastry case. Behind the counter, the young waitress moved briskly, her hair tied back, stray strands sticking to the sweat on her forehead. Her brown eyes sometimes flickered with fatigue, but she kept a smile ready for each customer. Her uniform had faded with wear. A dusting of coffee grounds clung to the hem of her skirt. But her steps were quick, her hands deft as she carried trays, wiped tables, straightened counters. She wasn't just a waitress. She was the pillar of her family. After every morning shift, she would rush home to get her little brother to school. Their father was gone, their mother ill. The weight of it all rested on her narrow shoulders. Every modest paycheck from this cafe was the only hope keeping their small home from collapsing. And then, the glass door swung open. A man stepped inside. No one could ignore his presence. The gold of his watch caught the cafe light. His tailored gray suit hugged his frame. Each step echoed the strike of polished leather shoes pounding against the old tiles, shattering the gentle rhythm of the room. It was him, a powerful CEO, his name splashed across the pages of business journals. Praised as the predator of Wall Street, the man who could buy out a company with a single nod. Stories trailed him everywhere. Billion-dollar deals, lavish parties, decisions that wiped out thousands of jobs overnight. Out there, he was someone no one dared oppose. His eyes swept across the cafe, disdainful. His lips curled, half smug, half bored. To him, this was nothing but a shabby place unworthy of his designer shoes scraping its chipped tiles. And yet he came, perhaps to kill time, perhaps to savor the pleasure of towering over the small and powerless. The room chilled as he sat down. Conversations dipped, pressed under an invisible weight. Customers exchanged nervous glances before quickly dropping their eyes back to newspapers and phone screens. The waitress approached, head bowed slightly, voice soft. "Good morning, sir. What can I get for you?" For an instant, their eyes met. He looked at her the way one might glance at something cheap, and though she masked it, a flicker of unease stirred in her chest. She knew some people didn't come for coffee. They came looking for someone weaker to break. And she was right. His chuckle cut through the quiet fingers drumming relentlessly against the table. Thud, 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 like a hammer beating against the air. Customers glanced up, then quickly back down. Even the rich aroma of coffee seemed to turn bitter. She bit her lip. Her eyes flashed with uncertainty. But beneath that, something else lingered. A fragile, glowing trace of resolve. The camera slowly zooms in on her face. Beads of sweat across her forehead. Lips pressed tight, eyes trembling but unflinching. A confrontation was about to begin. One side power and arrogance, the other patience and dignity. Who would prevail, and at what cost? The espresso machine groaned with a long, weary hiss, steam rising in a hazy cloud. The waitress set down the black coffee. Her hand trembled, but her smile remained. "Here you are, sir." The man didn't reply. He lifted the cup, took a sip. For a moment, the entire cafe seemed to hold its breath. Then, he spat the coffee straight onto the floor. Dark liquid splattered, pooling into warped shapes across the tiles. A shiver ran down every spine. "What is this filthy water?" His voice slammed down like a hammer. "Coffee this week. Are you trying to poison me?" The girl froze, eyes wide, breath quick. Then she bowed her head low. "I'm sorry. I'll make another." Useless. He cut her off, his tone ice cold. "You can't even do something this simple. You belong with a broom, not serving me." Some customers turned away, cheeks burning with secondhand shame. A young couple whispered, then fell silent as the CEO's glare swept their way. An old man tapped his cup as if to rise, but sank back down with a shake of his head. Silence. The waitress bent to wipe the mess-hot coffee scalding her hand. She bit her lip, but no sound escaped. Beads of sweat rolled down her forehead, dripping onto the bitter puddle. Still, the man wasn't done. "Hey, bring me another. And this time don't disappoint, or I swear I'll have your manager throw you out this instant." His voice cracked through the small cafe, mixing with the clink of spoons, the muffled coughs of strangers. The air turned stifling. She stood, nodded, walked back to the counter. Each step dragged like stone. But in her eyes, shame was already kindling into something else, a quiet ember. She brewed again carefully. Her hands still shook, but slower now, steadier. The sound of coffee dripping into the cup seemed unnervingly loud. She set the fresh cup down. "Here you are, sir." He stared, eyes sharp as razors. He sipped and this time slammed the cup down hard. Cracked porcelain, split coffee spilling across the wood. "God, you call this service a chipped cup? Who even let you work here?" His voice thundered, rattling the glass at the door. A few women gasped. A young man nearly stood, but his girlfriend tugged him back, shaking her head. No one dared intervene. The waitress stood there, heart pounding, throat tight. But this time she didn't bow right away. Her eyes lifted, meeting his arrogant stare. For a fleeting second, she almost fought back. Instead, she drew a deep breath, forced it down. "I'm sorry. I'll replace it right away." Her voice was soft, but no longer trembling. The CEO blinked, caught off guard, then sneered. "Still daring to look at me? Let me remind you, you're just a waitress. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't forget it." "Nothing." He leaned back, legs crossed, arms folded as if passing judgment. The cafe fell silent again. The wall clock ticked, tick, tock, tick, tock. Each second a weight, pressing down. She turned away, fingers clenching the rag until her knuckles whitened. Humiliation and anger surged like waves inside her. And beneath it, something else stirred. A fragile resolve beginning to blaze. The camera drifted across the faces of the patrons. Some averting their gaze, others burying themselves in phones, a few grimacing in helplessness. All trapped in the invisible cage of power. And then it stopped on her face. Her eyes still glistened, but they had changed. No longer only fear. No longer only endurance. But something else. Something burning like a flame newly lit. The narrator's voice rose low and foreboding. He believed she was nothing but a shadow. But in the silence, a storm was building. And when it broke loose, nothing would ever be the same. The air in the cafe thickened. Every gaze lingered, every breath held. The ticking clock hammered the silence each second like a slow, heavy blow. The man leaned back in his chair, eyes cold, as if he had already won an uneven battle. The waitress stood frozen. Her fist clenched the rag so tightly it tore threads, spilling loose. Her chest rose and fell sharply, eyes fixed on the coffee-stained table. A tear welled, then stopped. She raised her head. Her eyes had changed. No more trembling, no more avoidance. A strange calm laced with steady fire blazed within her gaze. The CEO faltered. For the first time, the man accustomed to obedience realized the girl was staring straight at him. Not with fear, not with submission, but almost as if she had been waiting for this moment. Her voice came soft, but sharp enough to slice the silence. Sir, do you really think you know who I am? The cafe rippled. Few customers looked up. The young couple whispered. The old man in the corner froze, squinting. The CEO laughed with contempt. Who you are? Nobody. Just a waitress. Her lips curved in a faint smile, but her eyes glowed. From her apron pocket, she drew out a folder, edges worn but neat. She set it on the table with a heavy thud. Then perhaps you should read this. The sound cracked through the cafe, echoing in every ear. The CEO frowned, his gold-ringed hand flipping a page. His proud eyes flickered, then trembled. What was inside? Contracts numbers only, he should have known. The customers couldn't see, but his reaction betrayed him. His face hardened. His lips twitched. Beads of sweat dotted his forehead. She leaned closer, her voice low, but clear enough to carry. You can belittle me, but you can't deny the truth. I was once a legal assistant in a finance firm. I know how to read numbers. I know how to dissect contracts. And as it happens, I've uncovered serious misconduct in your latest deal. His hand tightened on the folder, shaking. He forced a smile, lips rigid. Where did you get this? Whispers spread through the cafe. Phones rose into the air, recording. Cold blue light from the screens cast the room in a harsher glow. She straightened, voice steady now. You think money gives you the right to humiliate me, to shout in my face? But there's one thing you can't buy. The truth. And the truth is right here in my hands. The cafe exploded in silence. The scene flipped like a stage play turned on its head. From the weakest person in the room, the girl now held the knife aimed straight at the CEO's pride. He lunged forward, his voice a growl. You dare! But the words broke off, swallowed by a chilling silence. His eyes locked with hers, and for the first time he realized he was the one on defense. She smiled faintly, a smile like a challenge. The camera closed in on his face. Sweat traced his temple. His lips parted, ready to protest, but nothing came out. Outside, a car horn blared, tearing through the night. But inside the cafe, no one moved. All eyes were fixed on this clash. He thought himself untouchable. But with nothing more than resolve and truth, one young woman flipped the board. Now the question remains, will he face it, or fall deeper into the abyss? The folder lay wide open on the table. The pages, bathed in the cafe's golden light, were littered with numbers, thousands of needles aimed straight at the man who once thought himself untouchable. She stood tall, back straight, eyes steady. Her voice rang out clear as glass. You siphoned millions from the company's pension fund. You hid the losses, funneled them into your personal accounts for parties, for shady deals. And you thought no one would ever notice. The cafe went dead silent. A heavy stillness pressed down, then whispers tore through it like blades. What did she say? Pension funds? Unbelievable. Every eye turned to him. Phones lifted. Lenses aimed at the table. A burst of flash lit his face, catching every crack in his composure. The CEO shot up. His chair toppled with a crash. He jabbed a trembling finger at her, his voice breaking. You're lying. Who would believe a waitress like you? But his words shook. No sharpness, no authority, only panic. She didn't flinch. She turned the folder so all could see. This is the contract I backed up from the internal system. Your signature is here. The company seal. None of it can be forged. Do you still want to deny it? His eyes darted wildly. Sweat streaked down his temple. His hand clenched the edge of the folder, trembling. A male customer stepped forward, phone aimed closer. Mr. CEO, how do you explain this? The cafe erupted. Voices overlapped, cameras clicked, phones recorded, spoons clattered onto plates. Chaos swelled. He snapped, roaring. Turn those off. Put your phones down. I'll sue every one of you. But no one listened. The lenses stayed fixed. Every eye became witness. She stood still. Her eyes glowed with something unbreakable. Her voice was calm, but it cut through the noise. You can humiliate me. You can trample on my dignity. But today it's you who must bow to the truth. The cafe burst. Gasps filled the room. A few hands clapped, then more. The sound grew, scattered applause swelling into a wave that crashed across the space. The CEO's face drained pale. He staggered, gripping the table for balance. His arrogance crumbled, leaving raw, naked fear. No, this can't be, he muttered, voice fraying. You don't understand. She stepped closer, her hand pressed onto the folder, her eyes locked with his, steady, unyielding. I understand more than you think. And now it isn't just me. Everyone here understands. The camera closed in on his face. Eyes bloodshot, breath ragged. The expensive suit stained with coffee, wrinkled and small. A man once feared by thousands, cornered at last. When the tyrant who made thousands tremble is finally forced to face the truth, will he fight back? or will he fall? And this young woman, what else does she have left to reveal? Applause still rippled through the cafe, scattered at first, then rhythmic, quiet at first, then swelling into a wave. Faces once frozen in fear now glowed with solidarity. The man stood paralyzed beneath the forest of phone cameras aimed at him. His tailored gray suit was wrinkled, stained with dark splashes of coffee. The eyes that once looked down on everyone now darted wildly, lost and broken. He roared, but his voice cracked. "All of you, you'll pay for this." No one answered. Only the endless hum of recordings, the sharp clicks of cameras. Each flash was a knife shredding the mask of power he had clung to for years. He snatched at the folder, hands trembling, scattering papers across the floor. Pages fluttered through the air, landing in puddles of coffee. A few sheets fell at customers' feet. They picked them up, holding them high for the cameras. The evidence only grew stronger. The CEO's face turned ashen, his breath ragged. He looked like a man about to collapse. He spun on his heels, staggering toward the door. The glass swung open, slamming against the wall. Blinding sunlight poured in, exposing him as he stumbled into the street, a fallen monument in full view of the crowd. The cafe erupted. Applause thundered. A few whistles pierced the air. Someone shouted, "She's the strongest one in this room." The camera turned back to the waitress. She stood trembling slightly, eyes still glistening. But her face was calm, her lips curved in the faintest smile. Not pride, not gloating, just release. She bent down, picked up the rag from the floor, wiped the coffee stain, a familiar motion. But now it was different. No longer the gesture of someone resigned, but of someone who had stood tall, her dignity intact. Customers drew near. A middle-aged woman touched her shoulder, whispering, "Thank you. You've shown us what courage really looks like." Her eyes brightened. A full smile bloomed, chasing away the shadows at their corners. The camera pulled back wide, the warm cafe bathed in golden light, faces glowing, conversations rising again, as if no storm had torn through. Yet everyone knew they had witnessed something unforgettable. Power can force people to bow, but truth and dignity are what make a room lift its head high. And today, one young woman reminded us all. The camera lingered on the glass door, still shuddering from the slam. Beyond it, the CEO's figure disappeared into the crowd. Once imposing, now hollow. Inside, laughter returned. The clink of spoons against cups, the rich, warm scent of coffee filled the air once more. The girl stood there, calm, proud, a small but unyielding symbol. The screen faded to black. Words appeared. "Truth and dignity always prevail." A breathless pause. Then, "But is this truly the end, or only the beginning of a greater battle?" The screen slowly fades to a simple white background. Piano notes linger, slow, gentle, falling like dew after a storm. No noise, no tension, only stillness. Only soft words appear, fading gracefully into the frame. "Truth and dignity always prevail." A warm voice enters, not harsh but calm, like a friend sitting beside you, speaking softly. This story reminds us, sometimes a single act of courage is enough to change an entire room. Have you ever witnessed such a moment? When someone small stood tall and truth made power bow its head. A pause, only the piano tender and steady. The voice continues, closer now, as if reaching straight to the heart. Share your experience in the comments, because maybe your story will inspire someone out there who needs courage today. Words scroll across the screen. Leave a comment. Tell us your story. The piano swells, then gently falls again. The voice returns, warm and inviting. And if you believe truth and dignity deserve to be shared, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every click is a small light that helps these stories shine brighter. The imagined camera drifts away from the golden cafe, where laughter and chatter slowly return. Yet one lingering question hangs in the air. In a world filled with injustice, would you dare to stand up for what's right? The screen fades fully to black. Only the piano remains soft, steady, leaving behind a quiet resonance in the heart.